You know, like I get asked a lot here at Exotic Car Hacks. I have all these cars. We know the car market's going down. What's happening? Why am I not in a rush to sell all this, capitalize, double down when the market's down? And why is it that I keep buying stuff, new stuff, old stuff, and keep buying exotic cars even though everyone on the internet is saying the market is crashing? So the first idea would be that, well, he's trying to persuade us that the market is not going to crash so we can keep buying cars, because that would make sense. That would be, I guess, one way to look at it. But the other part is, what data do I have, or why is it that I believe that all this stuff is not really crashing? Some of it is going to adjust, but it's not going to go that much down. Let's use SF90s for an example. I said a couple of months ago that there was a dip when kind of this market turmoil started, and that this would resolve and go back up. That's exactly what happened. So I literally bought this used, even though I've had 3 cars brand new at MSRP. I bought this one very close to that, even though it's this insane Aceto Fiorina package. And I want to make a note here that this has since gone up an extra 100, even though it was down for that moment. People have said I should have gotten rid of this in the market, and this has come down about 5% in the turmoil. Okay, whatever. This has gone up 300,000, which is 10%. Since its acquisition. This is exactly where it was. That has gone up 20%, and that hasn't even moved. So what is happening, and why do I have so much confidence in this market when everybody else is screaming run? So there's one key concept we have to understand about exotic cars. And remember, if you want videos like this, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Now, I usually don't tell you to like a video before the video, like a lot of ass clowns on YouTube, partially for one simple reason. If you haven't watched the video, how would you know if you liked it or not? Well, yeah, I'm not trying to buy your like. I want you to actually like something because you really like it. But anyways, so the point that I'm trying to make here is that Exotic Car Hacks, we analyze markets. We don't just talk to get a headline in. We don't talk about clickbait trying to say, oh, the market's crashing, so you click the video and watch the same crap over and over. Instead, I want you to learn something new about how markets work. The exotic car market is about supply and demand. And we know that demand has been significantly curbed by all of the market turmoil. We know that there's a lot less demand than there was a year ago. Nothing has changed there. This is not news. You don't need to watch a 20-hour report on why demand is down. There's hundreds of reasons why markets are broken. The war has not helped. Energy is up. And more importantly, we're near an election season. And in addition to that, also all this money has disappeared from the markets, including Bitcoin and all of that crap. So all of that has gone out of the way. Now we have less demand. Fine, but we still have significant supply shortages. I want you to understand that in America, the car market is strictly driven by one key thing, or was for the last 10 plus years before 2020. And that was called leases. You see, America overconsumes everything. We buy so much of everything, and we are instant gratification junkies. I don't want to wait to sell my car. Here, dealership, take my car. I don't care what I lose. I have a car sitting here on the lot. I like the yellow better. I'm taking it. That is the stupidity of why most Americans are poor. That is exactly the mentality that has allowed people in the car market before 2020 to continuously transact the big margins and have manufacturers balls by the chain as dealers by saying, we're moving your cars, you better sell to us because we're pre-buying them. Well, something I told you in 2020, you can refer to all of our past videos, we'll link them here in the description. Something pretty interesting happened. The US model of stacking cars on the lot for people to just walk in and buy died. Because we had a COVID supply shortage, manufacturers used that as a good pretext and excuse to prevent us as dealerships here in America from overbuying inventory to sit. And as a result, they no longer allowed ordered inventory with heavy discounts since there was no more floor plan needed. So there was a significant change in the way business ran. Think about the last 3 years. Since 2020, when have you seen a lease ad for a Lamborghini Huracan? When have you seen a lease ad for an Urus? When have you seen a lease ad for a Portofino or Roma, cars that nobody wants anyways? But yet there's no lease for it. Well, how many leases have you seen for Hyundai, Lexus, BMW? Nothing. Why? Because leases are the backbone of the stupidity of the car market here. They are basically saying, we overorder shit, we don't know what to do with it, we don't want it to depreciate on this lot, so guess what? We'll give you lower monthly payment if you take it, and if you return it at the best time when we can resell it and make money, and you take the depreciation, we'll just give you a lower monthly payment. That's basically a lease summed up, and it's fucking awful. But yet, this is what people do, because somehow this and brainwashing and imbeciles like Sue Zorman on TV and everything telling you can get a tax write-off, so you should lease a car. These type of stupidities have plagued the internet and the TV stations for the last 20 years, brainwashing people into thinking that leases are better because you can afford it and cars are depreciating assets. But at some point, dealerships want these cars back, so even though they're depreciating, when they're used, they want them back, but not when they're new. It doesn't make sense, right? But anyways, so leases are this problem. So here's what happens. I want to walk you through a cycle of a typical dumb American consumer buying a McLaren at a dealership. I walk in, these are not Exotic Car Hacks members, these are normal conventional consumers who are retarded and don't understand the baseline for how the markets work, and they're just needy and they don't care how much money to lose, even though most of them probably shouldn't afford to lose even 10 grand buying a car. But nonetheless, they walk in a dealership and they usually go, my accountant said, that doesn't even know or read the tax code, that I can take some kind of write-off if I lease this car. What cars are available here? Well, I have this 720S, sir, here, and you can drive it for 3 years. Okay, cool. I'm gonna lease that. How much is a lease? 60 down, 2,000 a month. Great. That sounds like something that makes sense for me. Why? I have no idea, but somehow that makes sense for the retard, right? So anyways, so he buys that car and he puts in a circulation. In his head, he has done this 10 times. He's going to return again when his lease is up in 24 months and get the next car. This works as long as one, the lease program is there, two, a replacement car is there for him to pick when he comes back. But something pretty astronomical happened. People bought these cars in 19 and 20 when these programs existed, and they were due in 22. And they were due in 23, and they were due in 21. But guess what? Something really magical happened. They went to the dealership and they said, hey, my lease is up, so I'm gonna turn this in now, and I'm gonna buy this. And they're like, oh no, this isn't here anymore, you can't buy it. So, and we don't have a lease program either, so you're gonna have to return your lease, and you're gonna have to purchase that outright or finance it. Oh, well, this is terrible for me, it doesn't work. Okay, but now I'm gonna go to Ferrari and Lamborghini and check. Oh wow, they don't have anything either. Okay, what do I do with my 720 now? Do I turn it in and have no car? Of course not. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna keep it. It just makes sense for me to keep it longer. Okay, so that car was supposed to come back at the dealership, be heavily discounted, and then resold on the used market, pushing all the new 720S inventory down. But that didn't happen. And the other part is there was no incentive to move these 720Ss. So the pricing didn't come down. So what happened is pricing didn't get cut from the lease return. That's step one. That's why you didn't see plummeting pricing. Like you saw pricing that held pretty strong over the last 2 years because supply wasn't coming back on trade. Now, the guy goes, you know what? I finally decided I'm still gonna trade this in. I'm just not gonna buy another car. I'll just return this. Oh, what are you offering me on my lease buyout? Well, your lease buyout was $210K. Cool. Well, you know what? A private seller offered me $250. That was the norm the last couple of days, the last couple of years. So what happened is that $250 didn't go into the dealership for that margin. No, it went to a private party. You took one customer out of the dealership, you took one trade out of the dealership, you took one piece of inventory out of the dealership. So now the dealer has to compete with that $250 offer. Again, keeping pricing really strong. That's what led the car market over the last 2 years. Competing dealers time and time with each other, trying to make that dollar, you know, just kind of upping each other till they get the inventory, because the inventory wasn't existent. You can't be a car dealer without inventory. So they needed inventory and they had to overpay for it. But what happened is at some point that demand got curbed, but the supply didn't come back. And so while that's true, cars weren't moving every day and they weren't going up 20K, they also weren't crashing down. They had this last 10% that went over because dealers were pushing their luck, less inventory, more margins needed, I'm gonna make that money. But what happened is demand got curbed and suddenly they had to come down from their margin, not from their bottom cost, and basically lower that dollar. Now, supply did come back for G-Wagons, so they got crushed 100K like I told you guys. That's where supply came back. Supply didn't come back for Rolls, it didn't come back for Bentley, it didn't come back for Aston Martin, it did not come back for any of these things. And while you're gonna see more cars on the market naturally because there's less demand, you're also not gonna see dealers slashing prices 50K to get rid of inventory because they can't replace it. Now, let's assume you were an educated customer and you did buy a 720S with the right intention to then trade it in later. And you came in to say, of course, the new model's out, the 765 LT. I'm gonna trade for that. That was my goal. Well, guess what? 10,000 people were in line, there were 500 cars. You didn't get one. And here's the other part that makes it even worse than that. You aren't getting one. And here's the worst part. There isn't a new 720S for another 2 years. So you see, you have this gridlock in the markets where manufacturers purposefully delayed any new cars, keeping prices of used cars up during the downturn. One of the problems with people is that they think that auto manufacturers, I'm not talking about dealerships, auto manufacturers are really smart. They predict patterns. I've called this for years. I said these guys have analysts on board that analyze how many units they're gonna move, how they're gonna move them, and a marketing strategy that is phenomenal. So are the watch manufacturers, and you are falling for it thinking it's randomness. It's not. They knew this was gonna happen. They delayed their new production car. They pushed them out of the way till 23. They knew this. The new Spectre, they just announced it. Car's not supposed to arrive till end of 23. We haven't had a Wraith, we haven't had a Dawn, we only have had a Ghost and the final combustion Ghost, and that's it. And what I'm trying to tell you is that these guys are smart. They're spreading their game so they retain value. And that's really good for you if you already own an exotic car and you've been listening to me. It's really bad for you if you're now constantly shopping, trying to figure out a way to make it, and you can't figure out what's gonna go up, what's gonna go down, because you're not an Exotic Car Hacks member yet. But I want you to understand that this industry and pricing is not going to collapse on the rare, hard to get stuff. It's Fiorina market, cars went down because they were part of the SF90 pool. And then smart consumers like me and other individuals who are real collectors and individuals who know what to look for bought the really hot cars that were on the market undervalued, took them off the market instantly. Now you have a ton of SF90 base cars that nobody wanted anyways that are now settled at a fair number and holding there. And the power of that is to understand that it's holding there because there isn't better inventory. And when these cars appear with all the bells and whistles, the carbon wheels, the thing, they go for a huge premium, even in today's market, and dealers aren't coming down. I tried to buy an 812 GTS. There's plenty of cars in the 6s, but the right car was $780 asking. I made an offer of $700, which was $50K more than wholesale on any GTS in the country, and I was still told to go fuck myself, and they sold for $75K over. The 765 LTs sold for over $200K over because they were good specs, and bad specs are sitting. I have been telling you guys this for a long time. Exotic cars are about supply and demand. They're about price index based on spec, and good quality, hard to get cars will always bring a premium. Quality, one of one, insanely hard to get, near impossible. Like this doesn't even exist on the market at the price point. That shit right there, again, super hard to get. Every car here is special for this reason, because it retains its value once you learn the game. So to the idiot out there on the internet thinking that the game of exotics is just buy low, sell high, wholesale and shit, it isn't. And you have to learn this game step by step. So go through our training, it's completely free, it's in the link in the description, and learn this model, because even in recessions, the right exotics are always recession proof. They have been in '08, they are now, and they will forever always be as long as people keep getting richer. So now you can like the video, now you can leave a comment if you think I'm wrong, and I'll catch you in the next video for Exotic Car Hacks.